Passion over profit, getting off the grid. Hello, everyone. Tessa here with the Move to CEO group. And I have Kai all day. Hey, Kai.
Hi, welcome back.
Yes, and just in case you don't know us yet, I am Tessa, a marketing strategist, and Kai is a business coach, and we're with Move to CEO. And we're talking about, well, I went off the grid, we'll just say, for a while, 2 weeks in Africa. And Kai had this great idea to interview me after to say, okay, how'd it go?
Yes, but first, let us welcome back Tessa, or actually, let us welcome back Mwanza, which
Monza,
is
yes,
what
I have a
her
new.
new name is when she was gone, which means welcome, which is very much her personality and spirit if you've ever met her. So,
I did not expect to get an African name while I was gone. So there you go. They just renamed me. So they literally did not call me Tessa on the field. They would say, Monza, come here. So there you
okay,
go.
so we are diving in today to really what it took for Tessa to be away. I don't know, what did she learn from all of this? And, of course, I got to talk to Tessa beforehand, so I got to ask her a lot of things. But we're going to be diving into really what did that look like for her? Because a lot of people will say, hey, I just don't have time to go. Or I just can't leave my business. And I do believe you. I had a mother who she owned a restaurant for 26 to 30 years, something like that. I always forget. And I grew up in the restaurant business, and my mom was always too busy. One day was her famous line, one day I will do this one day. And, and that's why I do what I do now, is because I watched that happen. So I was so happy for Tessa when she was like, okay, hey, I'm going on this mission trip to Africa. I was like, are you really? And so today's show is aptly named Passion Over Profit, because she chose to pursue this thing that, if I remember correctly, I think you said it was like 2 years ago that you
Yes.
felt like this was something you really wanted to do, right? So it's been 2 years and you kind of finally just made it happen.
Yes. Yes. It took 2 years to get to this point. I think I made the decision to go. I found out about it, and my pastor was, they do the presentations and talk about it, but I had goosebumps everywhere, and not just for a little while. It was like an extended period of time, almost the whole entire time that they were talking. I'm like, okay, I think that's what I'm supposed to do. But when the first round, first chance to go came around, I chickened out. I mean, I honestly chickened out. I was like, I don't know. I've got so much going on, and I've just things, not the right time. And they have two different ones. So it took me, the second time around, when I got that same feeling, I was like, okay, I can't keep ignoring it. So I think we like tend to let suppress some of the things because we think we cannot leave our businesses, or we cannot be away for that long, or we can't do it, just physically can't do it.
So here's the question that is burning on everybody's mind. Did your business fall apart while you were
No, it didn't.
Okay,
Well, I mean,
okay.
let's just say
Did
that
it burn out?
yeah, it's not on fire right
Okay.
now. It didn't. No, and I think that there's always things that can go wrong and probably will go wrong. But I don't, we still had leads coming in. We still had, our program was actually promoted by somebody while I was gone, that did it on behalf of me. So I think you have to have people in the right places in your business, for sure. And I love that Kai talks about all the 5 P's of your business that you have to have, and people is a huge one, and processes, and all the things that make that type of leaving possible. Right? So if you haven't seen Kai's show on that 5 P's, you got to go watch that, because I think I can definitely improve things. Every time I go, I see more opportunities, but it still kept going, and I still got payments in, and people still signed up. So
yay. Okay. So congratulations, Tessa. So that was 2 years in the making, not 10, not 20, not waiting for retirement to happen. So I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I come from, both Tessa and I are workaholics. We love to work. And not in the sense like I have to, at least not for me. I don't know. Tessa was even saying just now, she literally just got home yesterday. And while we were talking right before this started, she's like, I kind of missed work.
I do. And I miss like actually making progress on Move to CEO, which if you make your business also your passion, I think that's a lot of what we do though, is we built the business with the end result in mind of what we want to achieve. We don't want to work every day of the week by any means. Like a 3-day work week is my heaven if I can get to that. But, I think we built it with that intention. And so I missed it. I missed work. I missed people. I missed Kai and, doing all of our ladies in the mastermind, which I'm sure Kai did totally fine without me. But
she was only gone for 2 weeks, guys. So I couldn't burn everything up while she was gone. I did hold down the fort for at least that amount of time. So it's okay. But hey, I have some questions for you that, I was thinking about, hey, if this was anybody who's watching this show and they were like, well, there is this thing that I've always wanted to do. I just don't feel like I have the time or the capacity or whatever it is. So I do have some questions to kind of help them figure out what their process needs to be or what they need to start thinking through. Okay.
Yes. And ironically, I did ask as I was going, and all these people that I would run into, I'd always, and over the last probably 2 months, I'd ask, well, how do you take time off? So I didn't, because I was like, it's not just me, but like, what are they doing? How do they prep? I had one person who said, I don't. So I was like, okay, well, I won't be taking notes from you.
Yes. There's so much to unpack there as a business coach, like so much, but I'm not going to do that today. So let's get into it. So what did you have to do to prepare for this trip?
I think we went over processes with team members. So that was a big one, is having a process document and videos for people that say, here's how to do things when I go. So people and processes, again, that was really big. I think having an assistant who stayed on and was, client facing for that period of time, even if they didn't do anything, they were there. Yeah. So there was an e-body that could at least answer an email within, 24 hours. I don't think you have to have somebody that's on call for them or solving the problems immediately, but we had WhatsApp for a couple of our clients so they could get in direct contact. And then I also had an out of office message that said, I'm going to be gone. If this makes you panic, then here's your option. You can email this person and, we'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. So even on the weekend, it still gave them the time that they needed to be able to get to the issues. But we did have a website that went down during that time. And so, having the team members know who to talk to if there's an emergency, and knowing the login information so that they could get in and fix the website, get the right team members on it. That was critical, which in past, I don't think I would have had that in place prior to this trip. So that was really helpful to have that, at least that piece in place.
Right. That's so awesome. Okay. What are some things you would do differently?
Okay, so here's what I did learn. As soon as you tell people that you're going to be out, they all jam their stuff into the last couple days that you have available. And so in asking a bunch of people too, that also wanted to get their stuff jammed in, I found out to plan 2 days off before. So I did 1 day off, and everyone everyone said, like, take 2 days off before, because people are going to always scram their little last minute projects in. So you at least have 1 full day to yourself. I actually had a full day of packing, which was nice. I had no, I wasn't rushing around trying to figure everything out from a business standpoint on that last day. So I would have to say, plan a couple days in advance and then a couple days on the tail end. So I'm actually not back officially until Monday for most people. So I have today and tomorrow.
I always tell people you should always have bumpers. So you need vacations for your vacations, because you have to readjust, right? So it's like, I remember when I used to work in corporate and then you come home, and this goes for man or woman, whatever. But if you have kids, like you kind of need a little bit of decompression time. And so sometimes I would just sit in the car and just in silence, just to ready myself, because I knew that it was going to be like loud and, and so it's
Oh
the
my
kind of
gosh.
same, but that's after like, a 8 to 12, well, let's be real. I was like a 12 to 14-hour work shift. And so I would need that space, but you're coming off of a vacation, right? Vacation. Really, you were working your butt off, but in a sense, it's a vacation to everybody else, right? So you still need that time to decompress and unwind. And you're in a different headspace where you're doing that, and you need that time after. I was telling Tessa, you should just like be off until next week and just sleep. Like, especially when it's such a huge time difference, like just go to sleep. Just, it's okay. She's like, no, it's fine. We'll do the show. I'm like, oh my gosh, Tessa.
I know. I'm actually really glad. When I want to get into the regular sleep schedule, but when you mentioned that, I was like, my eyes were like, oh, okay, it's kind of, I'm getting there. So I do think that you have to give yourself some buffer for sure. And then also like mentally, some people I'm willing to talk to, like my team members. You've got to be able to talk to your team members and make sure that they're okay and everything. So prioritizing family and your team and then your clients in when you're coming back, I think is really important in that order, because obviously you just left for a really long time, so you have to give them your best first time.
And I think it also depends on your business model for those of you out there. So if your business model is a lot of client facing, then you really have to understand how that's going to look when you're away, and especially if they've never met somebody else or you haven't built in these boundaries. Those are things to really think through.
Yes. So Kai mentioned boundaries, and that's one of the things that I would do differently. But she knows that I am one of those that's like, you need something at midnight, it's okay, I will fix it. So I think that setting those business boundaries for yourself is so important in what you're what your availability is for your clients anyway. So, weekends, I work every other weekend for my clients. And so this was one of those weekends that I was off. So, hey, no messages. That was already a pre-established boundary.
Beautiful. One day she will have the boundary of no weekends at all.
No weekends at all. Like, I'm working on that boundary.
Okay. So, what are some awesome things what are some awesome things about getting away and really feeding your passion over your profit?
I think my mind was cleared because the internet did not work. So as much as I really wanted the internet and my self-service to work just to stay in touch with even family, it didn't. And it was actually quite relieving because I wasn't checking my messages. I was very focused on the events and what we were doing and what our goals were, and really being there present with the people that I was meeting with. And so I feel like that was a huge difference from what could have happened if I did have cell service, because I would have been checking it and seeing, oh, this is falling apart or this. So, that ability to just let go and in our case, let God, let go and let God is what I had to do in what we were there for, which was a mission trip, but also in my business, like, it's going to be okay. I just have to let it go and he's going to take care of it. And he did. Like I said, we had some major catastrophes, but the people, when I wasn't there to babysit and micromanage, the right things were done, things got accomplished, and we're kind of picking up the pieces now that I'm back to make sure that we've got it fixed. But you just have to believe that your team can do it and empower them more. I think that's what I need to do, is empower my team more and say, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that they can learn from it and then be able to solve more problems in the big picture.
Yes. So, I would say now that you've kind of come back off of this, like, And it really, honestly, we were talking about this, and she was going from like 8 in the morning nonstop until, early evening. And they did this every single day, right? And you're in a place where, you have to be careful of the water. Like this is not like a luxury vacation like many of us like plan into our schedule, right? We're like, okay, I'm just gonna
I'll go to the
lay on.
spa.
Yeah, this is not
No.
that, right? So, but would you say that it was still a refreshing experience?
It was. I think I cannot believe how much music fed my soul. I was singing in my head, and I'm not a singer, and it got stuck in my head and just made me so happy. And like seeing people being able to serve and literally helping people, giving them, clothing and everything, eyeglasses, because they don't have eyeglasses out there. It helped because I was able to help them, and see that in them. Like it fed my soul just being able to go on a mission trip. So, but, just being off of work and not having to just be at a computer all day. Like I walked around, like the physical activity part. I feel like it really did just get me back on track for where I need to be, even though wasn't very restful. And like I said, I literally was paranoid about every single thing. There's like 13 different possible deadly snakes and whatever else there was, right?
No big deal.
All these things. Don't get the water in your eyes. Don't lick it. Don't touch it. Don't touch anything. Just stand there.
Don't let it accidentally
don't breathe
into your nostril. Like
I'm literally, there's about a million things that could have gone wrong out there, but you're very, I just feel so blessed and so fortunate. Like, I don't even want to waste water right now because there's people who are carrying their water and then having to boil it and then, serving you food with it. It's just, it's so humbling, and it made me sad and not sad in the sense like it was just heartbreaking, but they're happy. They're happy with who they are, exactly where they are. Yeah. And so you don't want to change anything where they are. They're enjoying life. They're relying on God's will for everything that they get in life. Like the corn is growing and they have a drought and they have enough, and it's just, you're not sad for them because they are happy, but you're sad that we're so needy.
Well, we live in a comparison society, right? So we watch other people's feeds, and then it and a lot of times they're not real feeds, just so we're clear. Right. But we see those feeds, and then we start to think, well, how is my life lacking, right? So we don't see the abundance that we already have. And, my husband and I were actually talking about this the other day. It's like, sometimes it can be super stressful with whatever is going on, and even with finances sometimes, right? Especially as we make big shifts in our business, it can be like, we're stopping one thing and then we're starting something else. That can be really challenging in terms of like having the faith to keep going sometimes. And yet it's like we have food on the table. The bills are paid. We have a roof over our head. Our kids are able to be in sports, which for years they couldn't be because we couldn't afford it. Like all those things, like, hey, we are so blessed. But you get into this like thing of like, you see somebody who lives on this beautiful farm, me and my farms.
Oh, and yes, the cow. She's like, man, I want a cow right now.
But, you see those things, you're like, oh my gosh, that's the life. And it's like, wait. Like we forget to count our blessings, which is why I think gratitude is such a huge part of, whenever anybody talks about how you start your day, it's, start with 3 things you're grateful for.
Yes.
And I think that's wise because sometimes we forget what we actually have in front of us. So it's such a great reminder to hear, these folks who are, like she was telling me, they would bring a cement block.
Oh yeah, that was
with them in order to have a chair with them.
Yes.
And so that was their chair, and they're carrying their water, like having to go walk to get water, carry it back. There's no like, hey, let me just turn it on. And they're so happy.
They're happy.
And because they don't understand what they're missing, because there isn't like this feed telling them your life is not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we do that to ourselves a lot of times.
And the funny thing is in Africa, they did a lot of people had phones, which was baffling to me. But they have like spots for you to restore your minutes, and so you see a lot of people now. I think more like on the phone doing these. They're not present in that area. So it did make me realize like how much, even though they don't have like running water in their house, they had a cell phone. I'm like,
isn't that crazy?
How do you charge this? And I'm figuring it's like solar panel type, like solar, chargers.
So crazy.
But they were very nice. It was amazing opportunity to be able to get to know these people, and like a village, actually we went to several villages, but I gained more from them, just being able to, like, they're infectious singing, like everywhere we went, somebody could start a song and they would all sing together. And it was like, so cool. How many times can you walk down the street in our neighborhoods at all and start singing a song and anyone would start joining in or come start dancing with you? Like, that's not a thing. They'd be like, okay, she's just she's cuckoo. But they literally come gather together and sing and just have some time together.
Community.
And so community. And they're all helping each other and kind of like, oh, you know what, I'll go get my friend. You're sitting on cement bags that are opened up, that are cut open. That's a towel, like a blanket that you sit on, or a cinder block, or some piece of wood that they found, like a little, like you chopped a lit piece of wood and that's what you're sitting on. It just, but yet they would invite us to go, they would bring us things and they have nothing. So it was so humbling, and I would definitely go back. Even though there's so many, I think my biggest thing for people is that, I was scared. I was scared that everything was going to get me. Everything was going to get me. And throughout the whole time, they keep reminding you that everything's going to get you so you don't die, probably. but the big picture was, if it means enough, you're going to go do it. If it means enough to you. So I think find that thing that means enough to you. If that's a vacation in Hawaii, or if that's, go into the mountains and going skiing, whatever means enough to you, go do it, and then take the time off of work so that you can actually enjoy it and stay off grid.
Well, let me just close with this. I have like two kind of takeaways that kind of came up. And one of them for me was, I was reading this Bible verse and I can't remember it, sorry, but it was saying, hey, if you need something from someone, that you should go and do that thing for them. So let's say if we're thinking about this from a business perspective and you're looking for leads, then you should be going out to them and offering them leads for their business. And it's just this way of thinking of, oftentimes we look at people as how can they help us? And sometimes it's how can we help them? And so I brought that up, first of all, because it hit me when you were talking about it, but it's not just about, a business thing. It's also about community. Sometimes we need to rest. Sometimes we need, to just be reminded that life is good. But how can we serve others and remind them of those things? Because sometimes that's the best way to get that refreshing, is to serve somebody else. It's so easy to get caught up in the mindset, like, I got to go and take a vacation. And we forget that there are other people who are just like us, who haven't had a break. They go to work, they come home, they've got puppies to feed, they've got kids to take care of, they've got, a grandparent that is living in their house that has dementia. Like, there are so many things on people's plates. And we often just think about ourselves, which is not bad. Like, you have to take care of yourself. But I do find that oftentimes whatever I need in terms of refreshing, when I serve somebody with that same thing, that I feel so much better. Like, so with finances, let's say, like, let's say that, I have a bill to pay and maybe I'm in a slump or something to that effect, or really, it's not usually a slump. It's just like, I'm not where I want to be, like, honest, right? And so, but then you see somebody on the street, right? And it's like, well, here's my last $5 in cash, because I barely. And that being able to give something that I am actually stressing out about, and I'm able to give this to somebody, is so much more of a blessing for me sometimes than it is probably even for them.
Yes.
It reminds me like, hey, like I had that to give. Like, and it feels good to be able to serve people. So I would encourage you guys, even if you can't get away, what is it that you really need? Is it that you need to take a break? Is it that you just need a little bit of silence? Who can you offer that to? That maybe that just that simple act of service can refresh you in that way, right?
Yeah.
And then my second takeaway, Tessa, is that what I'm hearing as you were talking about this is, there are things that you had to do to prepare. There are people that you had to talk to, all of these things. But in order for any of that to happen, you really had to understand how your business worked.
Mm-hmm. True. Yes.
Processes work, who's going to handle what. And a lot of times, if we're being very honest, a lot of us DIY business entrepreneurs, we are just kind of
winging it.
Winging it. Like, okay, I got to make this, so I'm going to do this. I have to do this, so I'm going to, and there's not actually.
We just do. Yeah, we do. And we don't write it down. And I think I have learned that processes are the best thing in the whole wide world, because you can teach somebody else to be you. And I was one of those that was like, I can't teach someone else to do what I do. Like, there's just no way. There's too many years of knowledge of web design that I can't do this. And Kai kept reminding me, like, you can write down your processes, you can figure out how to delegate to somebody else, because you can't scale if you can't delegate, and then your business will never grow. And she kept reminding me of that. So over time, like, I've gotten better. And I think we all need to be doing it still. So if there is something that you feel like you cannot let go of, like, you need to really look at it and say, why do I think I can't let go of this? Is it because I'm just really controlling, or is it because I have never taken the time to give this to somebody else? And yeah, it takes a while for you to train somebody up. But once you do, I mean, I have this stark difference too between what I've done in my business and what I've done in other people's businesses. So in other people's businesses, those ran perfect because I trained everyone, and that wasn't my business. So everybody's been properly trained, and there wasn't, maybe 2 peeps out of that side of the business because I fully let go of it. And that can be your business too. That could be my business too, as soon as I finish doing all of that delegation.
And remember, mistakes will be made. Okay. Yes. And it's okay.
And it's okay. And, especially when you're working with, clients, as long as you're super upfront with them and saying, hey, I'm training this person to be my clone, I'm going to give them the freedom to do this. I'm going to give them the space to learn this. Then they should understand. If they don't understand that, then they aren't scaling themselves, right? So if they give you a hard time about it, then you can just evaluate if that's worth the client that you want to be working with long term.
Well, thank you, Tessa, for sharing all of this with us. It was 2 years in the making, so I'm so happy for you. Yes. I'm hoping that you get to do this again next year, but that also you get to add to your trips and maybe have one that's kind of more,
fun
or something like that.
Well, we might have a wedding, honeymoon at some point here, so that would be
there you go.
But yes, and just to say, this trip we had 16,000 that came to accept Jesus, over 20,000 that heard the message. So that's a lot of people. A lot of really important people were involved in that process. So I just have to say that thank you to all of those that were there in Africa with us, and all those people that listened too. That was just amazing.
That was awesome. That's awesome. And she did learn some phrases. Can you sign us off with that?
Well, sure. Shali Nipo is goodbye in Bimba.
Okay. Well, Shali Nipo.
Shali Nipo. Bye, everyone.
Bye. See you guys next week.
See ya.